Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Rosie Mangiarotti, a Long Island native, graduated from Brown in 2018, where she studied business and entrepreneurship. In a junior year entrepreneurship coach, she pitched her idea for a better sticky bra, a bra with replacement adhesives. She worked with her team that semester, creating a business plan, and upon graduating, she decided to pursue her venture, Perkies, full time. She has been working on this for 3 years now and has three primary products on her website. All right, welcome to the show, Rosie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sheila.
And the first thing I like to ask is this show is actually based on my new best-selling book. I'll show you the picture. Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And so I like to start off by asking if you have a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a tough situation and how you got back on track.
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I always like to think back to like the initial years of starting this company. I had graduated Brown and decided to pursue this venture full time. And it was really hard because I had to create a product and raise money. And I couldn't raise money without a product, but I couldn't create a product without raising money. And it kind of put me in a bit of a pickle. And I thankfully was resourceful and I kind of sacrificed time in order to create this innovative concept of a stick-on bra with replaceable adhesives. And basically, for those who are listening and aren't familiar with a sticky bras are backless and strapless bras that stick on directly to a woman's breasts. But after a few wears, they begin to lose adhesion and they get dirty and they're rendered useless. So by offering replacement adhesives, all problems are solved, and it's also a more sustainable and affordable option. So anyway, so I graduated and was kind of like, how do I do this? And it literally took 3 years from when I graduated to when I actually had this hero product out. But I do look at it as a hidden blessing because over that time, I networked with everyone, learned how to manufacture a product, learned how to source fabrics and whatnot, and was really able to build out the Perkies brand, the name, the color scheme, the vibe, the whole brand identity. And I guess you could look at that as rock bottom, just like not knowing how the heck to start. But at the same time, I was 22 years old, right out of college, had, the rest of my life ahead of me, and I didn't have children to support or a husband or a house. I moved home with my parents and I'm still here. But I was very fortunate to not be taking on all the liability while starting a company. So that kind of positioned me to, you know, work through the hurdles and get to where I am today.
That's incredible. What a story. And to start out so young, that's great. That's one of the things that you learn. It's like you get a PhD in how to start a business, but you have to actually do it. There's no, you can get a degree, that's great. But when you actually do the work and you have trial and error, mistake, learnings, all these beautiful things, that's when you get to the end of it and you kind of know way more. It's just like in a couple years, so much more than you
Exactly.
ever thought you even needed to learn.
Literally today, I learned like 5 new things, and I'm like, "Whoa, this is part of it." People say
Yes,
it's like an accelerated MBA, and
that
instead of
is.
spending the money, you're hopefully
Mhm.
making it. Not yet for me, but soon.
Yes, yes. So now I wanna share a little secret about me that not everybody knows, and that is the bra on my cover of my book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, actually came in memory of my grandmother who, actually had a clothing manufacturing company. It was Catalina, Sportswear. She did bras and swimsuits, and so I literally, when I was in first grade or kindergarten, my first teacher ever, I told her that she needed a new bra and my grandma could help her out. And after school, my grandmother talked to the teacher because the teacher was kind of concerned, and then she ended up with this new bra. And so I came from that. So
I hope my grandchildren vouch for me one day like that.
that's so crazy. Yeah, I grew up, we had 200 employees that grandma had, and that's where I was like every day, 3, 4 years old. I was in this clothing manufacturing, she called it the factory.
That's
And they
amazing.
would produce all these beautiful bras and swimsuits and this and that, sportswear. So that was my
Real
background.
hands-on experience. I
Yeah.
love that. That's such a funny
So,
story.
like, I still to this day, I feel fabrics and I can't help and I look at stitching and it's just like I didn't go to school for that, but I know it like the back of my hand. So
Yeah, I
it's just
love that.
something. It is. So it's something that and that was kind of the memory for her, and she would get it and love that. So
That's so sweet.
yeah, yeah. So where do you see this going as far as creating more products or branching out? What's the next plan?
Yes, thank you for the question. So it's funny because as I mentioned, the bra took so long to make that in the meantime, I launched Perkies Petals, which are reusable nipple covers. So for some women, they don't need the, full coverage or the shirt that they're wearing, depending on the shirt that they're wearing. They don't need the full coverage of like a full sticky bra. So they opt for nipple covers, otherwise known as like breast pasties or petals. So anyway, I ended up launching those before the bra. And those come in 3 shades of nude. And they actually are my number one selling product, believe it or not, which is not surprising for any investor. They see this all the time. Like the hero product gets you on the map, but it's
Mhm.
these supplementary products that kind of continue allowing for that cash flow and revenue stream.
Right.
So I did actually start with that product. Then I have the bras. And then I had like was selling hats too, just kind of to get the name out there. And then one of my advisors asked me if, to see like how many people are buying the replacement adhesives. So I went through Shopify to kind of look at my orders and I realized that 30% of people buying from my website were buying more than one product, and which is a crazy stat for someone with like 2 real products on their website. Um, so then did some market research and found that seamless thongs are kind of the type of underwear that people are opting for these days. I found a manufacturer that makes quality seamless thongs and cheekies, and made sure they made them in at least 2 shades of nude. And anyway, I launched those back or in November last month. And those have been doing very well. And now 40% of people buying from my website are buying more than one product. So I feel like just driving traffic to the website, like build
Yeah.
it and they will come. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So that's kind of what I have right now. And I am working on an innovative sports bra concept to be announced or to be released early summer, late spring. So that's been a fun project I've been working on. And that'll be our first, it's kind of like a sports bra demi top.
Mhm.
So that'll be our first outerwear,
Nice.
which I'm excited to make that move because it's hard, making the invisible visible. Like the whole point
Mhm.
of the Perkies brand is to be underclothes. So it'll be exciting to create a product, an outerwear product. And Sarah Blakely is my end all be all idol. I
Yes,
love her.
yes.
She's most women's idol, I believe, especially women who are also in the undergarment sector.
Mhm.
But she's just such a boss woman, a great mom, wife, founder, friend. She really does it all. And that's kind of who I can see myself one day not being her, but living that type of life, being like the best in all those categories I just mentioned while running this awesome company and growing it. And just this past month, she sold a majority stake in it to Blackstone at a $1.2 billion valuation.
Wow.
So, and she was great. Like like, it took her that many years. She started it when she was what, my age? This is like 30 years later that she did
Mhm.
that. So it's, been amazing to watch Spanx go from like the one pair of pantyhose to leggings, arm tights, bras, you name it.
Yeah.
So I could see myself, expanding potentially to that degree. But it is really fun starting a company. So for all I know, maybe I'll sell this one, start a new company, or invest in future female founders. I think that would also be a cool pathway to go down, or maybe interweave that into a new company I one day start.
That's great. Now, what was the biggest challenge in being a female starting this whole new business? Was there a challenge that really was like, what? It's kind of surprising out there?
Yeah, so I do think I'm fortunate to live in this time of like more awareness around female founders and openness to female founders and recognition around female founders and like what they bring to the table. They represent 50% of the population. Like male investors are stupid to not understand female needs, and or ignorant to not understand female needs. So I do think like we are living in a time, thankfully. Again, there's so much more progress that needs to be made, but I have noticed that like I'm sure a lot of investors have been trying to diversify their portfolio now that they recognize the benefits to diversifying their portfolios in terms of like who they invest in and what types of companies they invest in. And I guess there's more so, I mean, there are more male investors than female investors, and more money being put towards male founded companies than female founded companies. So I guess it's been a lot of explaining what the product is and what the
Mhm.
customer pain point is. And usually these men will go back to their wives, sisters, daughters, if they're old enough, to kind of get that feedback on like, does this idea make sense? Because they can't really go out and try it out themselves. But yeah, I haven't ever I heard one story of someone's like one guy saying something about me behind my back about there being me not being capable to do this. But that was the only bad
Yeah.
experience I've had, which is lucky.
It's almost funny because you're young and you're a female, and I remember so many times where that gave me the upper hand because people had an idea in their mind that because I started my first business at 23, 24, opening big gift stores and all this, and it was just like the it was like a secret, it was like, boom, surprise, because they didn't
Exactly.
expect anything from me, and I was like, "All right then. Fine, you wanna think that? Go ahead. Think that. Just stay
Exactly.
asleep."
Prove them wrong.
Yeah, they were so wrong. So there is something about people judging based on a gender or age or anything where it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And when I had my store, I hired lots of women, that wanted to leave, like, Nordstrom's, these big brand companies, to work for my stores. I ended up with 5, and when they came over to my store, I gave them flex time, and I gave them like, I had 2 nannies, and they could have the children there
Mhm.
nearby, and that was all I could offer because 'cause I'm this young person starting out,
Yeah.
and it was we outsold, like, the Crabtree and Evelyn in the mall. They had trips. My lead salespeople would get trips to London
Love that.
because we sold so much, and it was fun because nobody expected it, and then I hired all these young kids emancipating from foster care that nobody wanted to hire. But I came from that when I was a kid at a certain point. So I could interview and I could see, "Oh my gosh, this is talent." They have, like, some street
Wow, I
success.
love that.
They survived, and they really want a chance, and they were like family, and so they nobody ever stole a penny, and they were present for everything, and they helped the business grow, and now
Oh, I love
they're
that.
all grown. They are all grown and they have their own companies. So that's, that was people that missed out on these great young kids or women that worked for me, that were just
You have the last laugh, you know?
yeah, it was the best. It was the best.
Wow.
It was the secret weapon in my marketing and my business that really helped.
Yeah, and I do think it is also, like, a matter of confidence, like, you can't let other people's views or thoughts about you bring you down, I'm sure some people would kind of be like, "No, it's a male-dominated
Mhm,
world, like, I'm not supposed to be a founder, I'm a woman, whatever," but I think a lot of it comes from inside and your confidence and your willingness to overcome that and not be fazed by the people
mhm.
like that and, um, you know, recognize how far confidence can really take you.
Yeah, and there's this resilience that there are so many times I made mistakes starting out my store and business. Oh, I made every single mistake in the book and then some new ones. And it was like I just like laughed about it. I guess maybe I was young enough to like not take it seriously. And it wasn't like a reflection on me. It was like that's just part of the learning. That's not a big deal.
Exactly,
And just dust yourself off like the book, pull yourself back up and get back on track.
exactly.
And that's it, where you just a lot of people will give up if one
Mhm.
thing doesn't work out, and there's like 100, probably hundreds of things didn't work out when you were starting.
Oh, it was like my entire job was putting out fires. It
Yeah.
still kind of is. But no, I played lacrosse in college and we always talked about like things are gonna go wrong. And it's not
Mhm,
the action, it's your reaction. Like
mhm.
90% of life is how you react to things.
Yes.
And I've completely taken that with me on this entrepreneurial journey. Like things go wrong, whether you freak out about it or take a deep breath and handle it, it's gonna have the same like or the thing still already happened.
Mhm, mhm.
So pull your bootstraps up and deal with it.
Yes.
Um, and don't freak out about it. Don't get down on yourself. Don't quit on
Mhm.
yourself. It's just part of the journey. And everyone always talks about not giving up. There's a reason for that.
Yes, that's so true. Now I'm imagining, I guess the size is one size fits all, or are there various
So
small
yeah, so
large?
for the Perkies Petals, those are pretty much one size fits all.
Okay.
Um, and then the bras, so the tricky part about a sticky bra is
Yeah.
it doesn't have a back or straps. So it doesn't pull up necessarily. So for right now, the bras come in three sizes A, B, and C. We're looking to expand. We're also looking into boob tape that will
Mhm.
provide that lift. But for right now, it's just A, B, and C sizes for the bra. And then the underwear, Perkies Panties, thongs, and cheekies are extra small to extra large.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. And that's something that, what do you think about giving, if you were to go back in time and give yourself advice before starting this, what would be your main advice?
Good question. Like, I don't know if I am in a position to give myself advice yet. Maybe in like 10 years. Um,
Or a warning, like what would you say,
or what?
let me just like kind of give you this warning before you start.
Um, Let me think. Um, that's like just don't be bogged down by the nose. I'm sure a couple years ago, like when someone didn't want to invest in someone with no experience, no product, no, like no, nothing.
Mhm.
I'm sure at points got really frustrated. But now I kind of brush it off. Like I don't let literally anything phase me these days. I've been through the ringer. But I'd say, yeah, that'd probably be my piece of advice. I'm sure I could think of others.
That's a good one. And yeah, so one of the things that's really important is to remember, if you're tuning in and you're starting a business, that it's not like going to be overnight success. It's going to be how many years now? 3 years. It's
Yes.
going to take a few minutes. Like 6 months to a year to for people to even know you're up to something different, and that's like your circle of influence, and there's so much marketing. So how does marketing work for you? How is that going?
Exactly. So I initially, literally up until like this past month, have been solely word of mouth, which is great because I think organic growth is super important. And, having people tell friends about it is like the ultimate, proof of concept. It means you've created a good product that works and people are willing to share it. Um, so that's been great. Obviously, social media channels, just my own promotion on my own personal account, like leveraging my own network is so important. Sending out update emails to friends, family, potential investors, alums from Brown, alums from my high school, keeping everyone in the know has been great too. It's been like every 6 months I try to send out an update, which has been great because people feel like they're invested in the journey. And that has also kind of been a good marketing strategy because those people typically end up purchasing. And just like trying to capture emails over the last few years has been super important because now they're all on my marketing email lists. And then I just started paid advertising last month through Instagram, Facebook, which is, starting. We're trying to, still figure it out.
Mhm.
But I'm excited to kind of see how that happens. And I'm looking into ulterior ways, influencers. I spoke with another Brown founder the other day who started a company called Stack Influence for nano influencers to kind of
Mm.
promote your product with a more engaged following than macro influencers. So that's like it's just like a strategic way to kind of get your product out there and hear reviews and kind of have people promote it. And then even I found you through Podcorn,
Mhm.
which is a podcast app or website where you can kind of talk about what your company does, and people who either have shows or podcasts can connect with you, and you could work with them to kind of either do an interview or be advertised in their mid roll or their pre roll, which is another like cool different type of advertising as opposed to an Instagram ad. So it's been fun, and this is one of my favorite types of things that have come out of what I'm doing. Like doing a live interview is awesome.
Yes, yes. That's great. And so now I'd love for you to share if you have like a book that inspired you or something that kind of helped you through this as far as a business book or an inspirational, motivational book.
Okay, there are two books. One of them kind of got my wheels turning towards going into the nonprofit field, which didn't end up happening. However, I do fully intend to be more involved in the nonprofit world, whether it's starting a company in that space or right now, I already donate 5% of proceeds to different charities, and the person checking out could actually choose what charity that percentage goes to.
Mhm.
But that I was inspired by Adam Braun's Pencils of Promise book, and Adam Braun is also a
Nice.
Brown alum. Um, but anyway, that's like a future when one day I have like a big nonprofit, I'll give that book credit. But for the entrepreneurship book that really inspired me was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, founder of Nike. And I read that probably back in high school and then again in college. And both times it just struck a chord with me. And I realized that starting a company isn't going to be easy, but it's something that I'm going to do and something that I'm going to succeed at. And yeah, I mean, you should. I don't know if have you read that book, Sheila?
No, I haven't. I'm like
I
gonna go read that
I
for sure.
recommend it. It's really a good read and inspiring, and um, especially for a founder. But yeah, I mean, everyone has their own stories. The How I Built This podcast is another great source of inspiration. Hearing from all of these founders that
Mhm.
had really, really, really low points that
Yeah.
they didn't think they could come back from. And they
Mhm.
did. So it's just cool to know, like, you might feel alone in this journey, especially as a solo founder, but every other founder has been through the same struggles as you have,
Mhm.
or worse.
Yes, I think there's one thing I as a young, business owner that I learned starting so young myself was I had to say no a lot to all the fun things. And I was like, "Oh, man, this is I wanna go out, but I got business. I gotta go do these things." And it was that prioritizing, and it was really hard because everybody was out having fun, and I was still at work. And and then it started paying off. And that's kind of the difference is you've gotta have that stick to itness, I guess, to go through that time where you have to really like, I would go out once or twice a week instead of every day. I mean, Beverly Hills, like, you could go out every single night here, and so that's just the way it is, and I a lot of times I'd have to say no, and
Totally.
that's just yeah. So that was a tough one for me.
Yeah, but I
Sure.
do think, I mean, for me personally, I mean, I live at home, so I'm, like, home Monday through Friday, so, like, whether I like it or not, I'm usually, like, working late and, not much is going on in my hometown, but on the weekends, I'm usually in the city, but I honestly have found so much success in meeting people in the city
Mhm.
and, socializing because I am creating a product for my personal demographic. Friends
Yes.
who I hang out with, guys who I hang out with, their girlfriends,
Yeah.
sisters, their friends, and I find it incredibly helpful when I do socialize with those
Right.
types of people, and, a lot of times, A, they're giving me good advice and, I'm kind of getting a finger on the a pulse on the market and kind of like what people are wearing and what people are doing, what people are spending. But I also, hear great ideas from them and also am connected to people through them.
Mhm.
One of my good friends just connected me with a guy who's helping me run all these digital advertisements and he's
Nice.
not charging me a dime,
Wow.
just through like a close friend connection. But that happened over dinner one night, like it's
Uh-huh.
just things like that can happen when you put yourself out there and say yes to
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Obviously not going out every night of the week,
Right. No, yeah,
but
it's kinda like prioritizing
yeah,
for
taking
sure.
a couple nights
Yeah.
or, saying yes to a few social things I think is very beneficial for me personally and Perkies.
Now, how did that show up as far as, um, now that you have this you're working from home, how did this COVID situation and the pandemic, did that affect business, or was that, you got more business? How did that show up in your
Yes, so COVID happened before I had even launched any product.
Okay,
So I was like never stuck with inventory. It almost kind of gave me an excuse. I was like, they're still not ready.
good, good, yeah.
But it did prolong the process. It
Mhm.
basically every product I sent back to China that they sent back to me would take 3 months instead of 3 weeks because we were
Uh-huh.
still sampling. It was terrible. But at that same time, I was really able to like I said, like hone in, focus on the brand, the branding, even the product itself.
Mhm.
It bought me a lot of time to perfect things, and be grateful that I didn't have tons of inventory and that I didn't have to fire people or lay people off. Like I was one woman show. It was
Uh-huh.
it
Yeah.
was really I was very lucky. And then thankfully the bra still launched right before summer. If
Mhm.
it would push me back 3 months, I would have been really annoyed, but it pushed me back from, like, a January launch
Oh,
to a
perfect.
May or June launch, which
Yeah.
was fine because no one's really wearing these or less people are wearing them in the colder
Mhm.
months.
Makes sense. That's great. All right. Well, we are coming to the end of our interview time, so I'd love for you to share one more time where people can learn more about Perkies.
Yes, you can follow Instagram at myperkies, MyPerkies. And if you want to purchase Perkies, you can go to perkies.com, Perkies.com.
All right. Thank you again, Rosie, for being a
Thank
guest on the
you.
show. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Sheila.